Welcome in. It is day 212, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be going over a game that primarily I've only ever played this game on Board Game Arena. It was one of the games that my group was a really big fan of. I didn't mind the game, but I was not necessarily very good at it. That being said, it was definitely one that I've played so many times that I asked if anybody had it as a physical copy, got my hands on it, and decided to review it. So that game is Dice Forge. Now, the concept of Dice Forge was brand new to me. I'd never seen something like this before. The idea is that you start off, everybody, with the same dice, but you can manipulate these dice. So as you're going, you'll basically roll your dice, and you'll get two different versions on the dice. You'll have numbers that are in one color that are spent up above, and numbers in another color that are spent down below. Now, up above allows you to affect your dice. Essentially, you would go, you'd spend it all in a spot, or you'd spend part of it in multiple spots. You'd take whatever you bought, and you would replace something on your die. So you might go, okay, I got something really good, so I'm going to go get, instead of having a 1 of the number that's the money for up top, I'm going to buy the one that's a 4. And now I'm going to put that 4 in place of one of the ones that was on this die. And now, if I roll that 4, I'm getting the 4 amount. It's more to spend in the future on a roll. And by doing that, you now have the ability to basically say, okay, on that die, I have a 1 out of 6 chance of the 4. And now on future turns, if you get a 2 or a 3 or another 4, every time you do one of these, you're increasing your die for its odds on the rolls, giving you a much better chance at being able to buy something really good. Meanwhile, there's resources to spend below. Now, these are two different types of resources for the left and the right side. And the idea of these is this is where the game is. This is where you're going, okay, well, the reason we were trying to increase our roll value was so we could get enough points to spend on the really big numbers, so we can now get the really big numbers from below onto our die. So now when we roll those numbers will let us go below and get something that's worth victory points. That's worth victory points based on your total roll, or victory points based on an attack. And you basically use all these different type of cards, you fill them in, and it's now giving the ability to start building up your victory points. Now, you only have so many rounds. It's going to keep going until eventually you get the cutoff round, and now you see where everybody actually landed for their points. And these points are based off all the cards you were buying. So the dice don't matter in the point values. The dice only mattered for the collecting of everything, the changing of the dice, and the buying of the cards. And now the cards are the payout. The cards are where you're going to get most of your points. Some were during the game, and some are at the end of the game. It's a really interesting take on a game, something I never would have thought of. I never would have thought of a game where you're literally changing the dice as you're going, but this really brought the idea to me, and I was so excited by it that while the game itself was not a huge hit for me, the concept of what it introduced is something I've looked for a while, and definitely has had my eyes open since. Well, why don't we jump in, talk our 7 categories, and see where this game falls for us. When it comes to the art, I won't lie, the reason my eyes got attracted to the front of this cover is actually it made me think of the movie The Dark Crystal, and it had a similar look to, with the center of this. That being said, I don't actually find that the box is in itself an amazing piece of art. I think the inside of the box is pretty nice, but I don't think this is one that, if you don't know what it is, that it necessarily grabs you. I think the sides of the box being just its name with purple, I like that. The color purple isn't used much. It's on this tannish color that isn't used much. The combo is acceptable to me, but the front of this box does not do anything for me. It's just, to me, it's a loss. It's got to be a thumbs down. Your components. So primarily you've got your cards and your dice and the pieces that affect the dice. And I think they do a really good job on all the components in this box. It comes across to me like they invested and made sure this game was going to be able to last. And that's what's important. So thumbs up. The price. It's not an expensive game, but it's not cheap. You might get lucky and find it as low as 40, but the likeliness is you're finding this in the 50 range, maybe even up to 60. I think it depends on where you go. You're not going to find this ever in a Target. but you may see it in a Barnes & Noble. And it's definitely in probably 3 out of 5 board game stores. And it's online. So I think the price for what you're getting is acceptable. I'll give it a thumbs up. Your difficulty. So there's 2 ways to judge the difficulty. First is, can you just play the game? I can just play the game. I can sit down, I can roll the dice, I understand the concept of increasing the numbers. That all works fine. But then it's understanding how many rounds you have and how manipulating the dice affects your victory points. I always made the mistake of, by the time I felt comfortable that I was making the big numbers up top, I just wasn't acquiring enough below. And by the time I started investing in the victory points, yeah, I might end up getting 3 or 4 of the biggest cards, but everybody else was way ahead of me. And I think I just had a bad issue of balancing that. So for me, I feel like it is a little tough in that regard. But I think that that's a me issue and not a regular person issue. I can get excited about the concept of I can make the best and kind of lose sight of the number and trying to track my actual victory points in a game. It happens a lot where I enjoy the fun of the game more than actually looking at the win. And then all of a sudden I realize 3/4 of the way through the game, oh no, I forgot to in any way prep myself for this. I don't think that happens to every player. And I don't think that that's this game specific. I think that's a general game issue for me. So I think this game is not an issue for people to learn. It's got some competitiveness to definitely keep experienced in, but it's not so hard that a beginner can't play. And those are the 2 main groups. So I got to give it a thumbs up. Replayability. We played this game in our 18 months probably that we played on Board Game Arena. We played this game at least 30 or 40 times. We would play this game 2 or 3 times in a night. So I think this game has a lot of replayability. I think the physical game will be a little bit longer. So you may not see that often be replayed in the same night, but definitely can be replayed multiple times in a month. So thumbs up. Keys to victory. Like I said, it's up to how you want to manipulate your dice. Do you want to manipulate your dice to be able to continue to grow that ability to buy and manipulate your dice more? Or do you want to manipulate your dice in a way that allows you to immediately be cashing in below? You may not be going for the bigger numbers, but you'll be able to definitely have things that give you a growing number down there, and you can try and go and get points now. It's all up to how you want to attack it, but there's definitely keys there. And there's that choice of left or right. There's the choice of, do you want to wait and try to build up a couple and get at least 1 or 2 big numbers for below? There's a lot of ways to attack it. It's not a straightforward left or right. It's really, I'd say 5 or 6 legit options, and they really are splintering every turn. So I think there's plenty of keys. Thumbs up. Is the game unique? I'm sure there's other games that do this, but I have not seen another game that manipulates the dice the way this does. And for me, that makes this game unbelievably unique. Has to be a thumbs up. Overall, what do I think? I think this game is not a must play, but I think try and get it to the table if you can. If you have a Board Game Arena, go on the account and play with somebody. If you don't, find somebody with the game or rent the game, go to a board game store and ask them if you can play the game there. Find a way to try it, because even if you don't love the game, which I think a lot of you will, even if you don't love it though, you might like that mechanic a lot, and it might put it on your radar to look for future games like I have. And that's why now I have the game Ronin Invasion coming in via Kickstarter this year, because that game was a dice manipulation game as well, and it was all this one that brought my attention to that. So even though this game didn't hit for me, its mechanic hit enough that I was looking for it and found something I really am excited to try next year. It is day 212, and we've been speaking about the game Dice Forge, and you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.